Let's call this meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, everybody's had a chance to look over the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I would move to approve it.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. If there's no further discussion, we'll proceed with roll call.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, now we'll move on to approve the December 8th board meeting minutes and workshop session. Everybody's had a chance to look those over. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as written?
I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there no further discussion? We'll proceed with roll call.
District 1,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
5.
Yes.
Passes.
Okay. Now we'll move on to public comment. Is there anybody online that would like to make a public comment? Now is your chance. If not, we'll proceed with the COVID-19 update from Public Health. John, are you on? Or Heather? Or
I am. Both Heather and I are on.
okay. Good morning.
Morning, commissioners. We got a couple of things going on in the world of COVID for a change. So I'm going to start off with Heather giving you guys an update on the latest with vaccine planning. As we mentioned last week, it's a very fluid environment with vaccine. We're seeing a lot of stuff, obviously, in the press. And I would say on a daily basis, there are multiple Zoom meetings and teleconferences and the like that we're participating in. Heather has been our point person as it relates to the vaccine preparation. So I'm going to turn it over to her. She can kind of give you an update on what we know today.
It is interesting that it is always changing. One of the things in the media right now is that vaccine is coming and it's here. That would be the Pfizer vaccine. So those are going to pre-positioned areas in the state that have ultra cold storage capability. So, that is obviously not in Houston County. So that would be, there's 2 locations in Olmsted County with Mayo and OMC, and then at Winona Health. So, as those things get in the media, people start to pay attention and ask questions. So right now we have not received vaccine, and we did not anticipate receiving any because of the ultra cold storage. I do believe they're anticipating this week that Moderna's emergency use authorization will be granted. Once that occurs, they will go through the process of shipping that out to the state, and then the state will redistribute that throughout the state, throughout the entire state itself. That will be, we don't know how that will be given to us and what dose amounts. We're not anticipating really high doses that we received in the beginning. Those would be for the critical populations in 1A, which would include long-term care residents. So we're working with those partners. Some may have of other avenues in which they're receiving the vaccine for their residents, and then emergency personnel, emergency services, first responders. We are still waiting to get definitive answers on what we can put in that EMS group, that emergency responder group. Those will be the ACIP guidelines that will dictate that. I don't want to go into to a ton of detail. You can go down a rabbit hole with this stuff, but once we get that, we're anticipating that to come slowly. The other thing in the news is a fairly large snowstorm that they're expecting in the northeast part of the country this week, which they do believe will impact some of the shipping and transport of the vaccine, at least the Pfizer at this particular time, because that's what's available. So as we, start to, yep, go ahead, Bob.
When you talk about the scheduling of who gets the shots, where do the schools fall in on that category?
That would be, they're not in 1A, which 1A would be healthcare providers, critical care providers, long-term care residents. I'd have to look to see if they landed in that second tier. My guess is they're probably closer to that general population, but I don't want to misspeak to that. When I hear that from ASIP, I can certainly send that out, but yeah.
I think some of this is going to be driven by supply and demand. And, one other thing I'd mention, perhaps but the Moderna vaccine does not require ultra cold storage. And so that will be a much more manageable for counties like ours. But the amount of it coming out, I think we need to set expectation that they're sending this to many different places, and we'll get small portions of it to begin with. And the state is establishing kind of who the priority is to receive that, and we will be following that guidance. And Heather's exactly right. Who is in that initial 1A priority group is not fully determined.
So it hasn't been determined how that is going to work yet by the state.
Well, they have determined how it's going to get distributed. I mean, there's a pretty robust plan. I think the thing that's important is people see in the news that and we're celebrating the fact that one has been approved and it is starting to be distributed. That's the Pfizer Ultra Cold. And that Moderna is on its heels. Hopefully in the next several days will be approved, and we may be seeing it within a period of a week or two. It's hard to say, but it's not going to come to us in an amount that's able to address all of those people that are identified in 1A right out of the chute. We're going to be getting shipments of this, and we'll be working with the state to determine exactly who should be receiving it and when. Is that fair, Heather?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Heather?
Mm-hmm.
Jack, this is, I guess, pretty personal question, but my wife would definitely fall into the high risk category. And given, I understand 1A, but after that, do you know, does she wait to get a postcard? Does somebody call her?
I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I think that's a great question. And those are questions we're asking on an ongoing basis. And when we talk about EMS, how the state looks at EMS and what we think of as EMS, they're looking at licensed paramedics. Well, not necessarily all of our EMS responders fall into that category. And some of our law enforcement are also EMS. Some of our fire are also EMS. So we're advocating that EMS umbrella be large so that we have individuals that would potentially respond in multiple capacities in a small county with volunteer services, or if that's part of their job, if they're in law enforcement. So we are kind of pushing and pulling with that information to get a definitive answer from them on who we can put in that umbrella, because those are our responders. So those are some information. And then when the next tier, Jack, to get to your statement or question, it would be how we go about reaching the individuals maybe that have a health issue or concern is when we have this 1A, it's not like there's going to be this knee jerk of, okay, it's 1A until March 7th, and then we switch to this. It's, it's really important we're in communication with who our 1A population is. So when we feel that there's coverage in our county, and if we have vaccine, there really shouldn't be a reason that we wouldn't switch to our next priority population once we know 1A is covered.
I have a second. I've got a second part of my question. Are you there yet, Heather?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Just quickly, she's, again, using my wife as an example, but it may fit others. She's doctored at Gunderson in La Crosse for 71 years. So now when this comes about, is the state of Minnesota going to determine her, or will her healthcare provider determine her?
That is another question that we have posed, because what we had learned initially was that using Mayo Clinic, for an example, because that is a medical destination in Rochester, that if individuals go there from out of state to seek care or are seeking care there, that they could be immunized there. So then our question that we pushed up, that the opposite would be true. If we have Minnesota residents that are seeking care that happens to be their medical home, that happens to be another state, would they be immunized there? So that is something that we're trying to have ongoing conversation with our healthcare partners, because that impacts the vaccine count that they get.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Those are
Heather,
really good questions.
Heather, a follow-on question to that, I guess, is the county expecting to get the vaccination for all 18,000 residents, or is this going to be like a normal vaccine where the Gundersons and Mayos get the bulk of the vaccines and Houston County gets a small amount for the population that the county would normally provide vaccination to?
At this point, I have not heard anything that we're going to, have the responsibility of vaccinating, the entire county population. I think when people are residents, their medical home, that's where they're likely going to go. The question that's been posed to us is, do we have the capacity to vaccinate the parts of our population that make up the critical 1A, and working with our partners in long-term care and first responders. That's the step that we're at right now. They haven't gone beyond that. They're fully, the information I heard is that they're hoping by March, April, May that there's more vaccine available to get to the general population, that people can access it much like a typical flu vaccination season.
That's kind of our desire, that it operates that way, and that's why we're working hard with our partners, healthcare partners, with the state, and as has been the case throughout this pandemic, we have certain opportunities and certain challenges because of our proximity to Wisconsin and Iowa. This is going to be something, this is just my opinion, and I take it as that, but, the effort to get people immunized for COVID-19 is going to require a lot of hands on deck, and coordinating all those different systems is going to be the trick. What we can assure the board today is that we're a player in that, and we're going to do everything we can to assist the people of Houston County. But I think there's going to be a number of players in that, and that's good because, what Heather alludes to as far as the manpower necessary to stand up something for 19,000 people is pretty immense. And so if we sound a little reluctant to give clear answers, it's because, number one, there isn't. I don't want to give the sense that this is what's going to happen, especially in a public meeting. But I can assure the board that we are a player in that, and we will do everything we can to provide the best possible access to vaccines to our Houston County residents, either us doing it or in conjunction with partners.
Well, the fact that just to do the vaccinations for the EMS, the first responders, police, fire, that alone in itself would be a task to do. So
Big lift.
you got your hands full with that task, and then that's the important one to concentrate on first. So, yeah, I don't think we're all expecting that you guys are responsible for vaccinating the whole county. I mean, people are going to work with their healthcare providers to do that, but it's good to know that you're going to be there to help advise and help people with their questions and give them their answers. So it's an important time.
It definitely is. So it's an encouraging development that we are in the process of rolling out, just beginning to roll out vaccines, but that's still a pretty challenging part of this whole event. And so anyway, that's I don't know, do you have more you want to add, Heather, as it relates to vaccines?
No, I don't think I have anything else to add unless there's other questions.
Well, there's a lot in the news, and I was watching it this morning too, and about this guy that has got cold storage units that are portable and movable. So, and he's trying to distribute those too for the Pfizer one. So there's a lot of information out there, and I can only imagine what you're getting bombarded with. So keep up the good work.
As with the information that we've put out and how we've approached the whole pandemic, we will rely on our partners at MDH, CDC, and we don't want to publish any information that's speculative. We're going to do the best we can to get information out as soon as we can, but we really want to avoid situations where we have to retract something and say, oh, I guess it wasn't that. Because I think that that's more detrimental to our citizens.
Yep.
Bob, were you saying something? You were muted.
You should be able to.
I'm still muted. I'm talking to Andy, trying to figure out how to get something on my other. I'm not talking to you guys.
All right. Anybody else with any questions for John or Heather? If not, thank you for your update. And we'll move on to our consent agenda. Everybody's had a chance to look over. No, wait a minute. Yep. Everybody's had a chance to look over our consent agenda. Is there any additions or corrections that you would like to add or pull, or?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been seconded by Greg. If there's no further discussion, we'll proceed with roll call.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Back to it.
Passes.
Box around it when you go to it, and it's very small. Is there a box that has a little box in the top right hand?
Okay.
Just in the top right-hand corner of this screen, there's a box with an arrow in it, a minus, a single box, and the X.
Bob, if you want to mute, you can continue talking.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
I feel his frustration there. All right, we'll proceed with employee recognition. Jeff.
Yeah, well, I'd like to, we've got a few of them on the line here. Okay, and would like to recognize several of our employees for their long service to Houston County, distinguished service. Not all of them were able to be here this morning, and we'll hand out certificates as available. But in the 25-year award category, we've got Marilyn Moore and Sheila Schroeder. In our 20-year category, Sue Bublitz, Ann Dearson, Holly Gleason, Heather Myring, heard earlier, Sean Peter, Luke Sass, and Sue Schwebach. In our 15-year award category, Dwayne Brownlee, Dan Coogan, Andy Milley, and Matt Seitz. And then in our 10-year category, Kelly Peterson. So turn it over to the board for any comments.
Well, I want to congratulate all you guys on your 25 and 20 and 15 and 10-year awards. And thank you for your dedication and your service to Houston County.
Absolutely. Thank you for the service and the dedication. It's a privilege to have you all working for us.
Thank you, too.
I would say the same thing. Thank you. Thank you
It's
for your
amazing.
service. You've been long-term employees, and we really appreciate every one of you.
And it's amazing how young these people look for having been with the county that long. So, we do appreciate you.
Hard to get that group picture this year.
I also would like to give a special shout out to Doug Twite, who has served with the county for 43 years, and I believe his last day is coming up Friday, if I'm not mistaken. So I want to give him a good shout out and a thank you. And you think about 43 years with the Houston County. I mean, look at all the changes that he's seen over those years and all the bridges that he looked under. And they're not there anymore, and there's new ones. So I just wanted to mention his name too, because it's a long time to work for a county, and that's a dedicated employee.
Do any of them have anything to say?
I think we should give them a round of applause. Good job, guys.
Up.
We can't be like Mower County and sing, can we?
Well, you could chime right in, Teresa, if you want to do that.
Yes, I would accept singing at this point. So if you want to go ahead and kick it off.
We don't want to ruin it, Andy.
We better stop there.
I'm with Andy. Go ahead.
Okay, let's move on. But thank you, everyone. So right now we have on our schedule, we're not quite there yet.
If we have Attorney Kubitschek online, I think we can
Okay.
proceed if he's. I think that's him down there at 1193. Is that correct? Maybe. Attorney Kubitschek, are you on the line? No. All right. Guess we'll give him a minute.
Did he answer?
I have not heard him answer.
Okay,
so let
okay.
me see if I can find and send him a quick text. And he's got the link.
There's one question I had on the that's not on the action items is, and I don't know if it needs to be or not, but the Green Acres assessment value appeal, is that not, doesn't that have to be sent up or responded to by this Thursday?
Yes. From what Cindy said, it has to be
Yeah.
We got till the 17th.
If you read that, at first that was what I was thinking because I read it real quick. And then as I looked at it over the weekend, it dawned on me that it's only the green acres tillable that are value. Like last year when I just went and did my own research on it, it's a recommendation for rural vacant land. I had told Jeff that we probably should pull that off of there because you can't appeal. And that decision gets made about February when we turn everything made by whoever was the assessor at that time.
I haven't heard much of that.
Yeah, Cindy, you're cutting out a little bit. I don't know if it would help to sit still when you're talking, or.
Well, I was sitting still, but is this better?
Yes.
Okay, I moved my computer.
Okay.
What I had said to Jeff this yesterday was, over the weekend I was thinking about this, and it dawned on me that, and then if you read that, what I turned into you, it says that the green acres, the tillable productive part of it, can be appealed. The rural preserve part is a recommendation and does not need to be appealed. So we don't have to do anything until like February on this. And it is, last year I went through and did investigating on it, came up with the $2,200. And that's what I think that whoever's assessor back in this coming February would be doing. It would be their decision fully. They can take input from the board, but it's ultimately their decision. It's their neck, it's their license. And you can discuss it with them at that time.
Okay.
I had told Jeff that we probably should pull that off of the discussion items, and he said that you probably wanted to discuss it anyway, so.
So you're telling us we can't appeal it, or we cannot.
I'm telling you, there's no reason to appeal. It's a recommendation. You cannot appeal. I mean, why would you appeal a recommendation? That's what I'm saying.
But now, I guess we can discuss this in discussion items. But is Jason ready, Jeff? Or
I just saw him come on board. So, Jason, are you there?
I am here. Certainly, we can hop on whenever you want to go to the closed session.
Okay.
I'd make a motion to go to closed session.
Motion's been made to go to closed session. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further
That's a motion pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D5, Subdivision 3, attorney-client privilege to address the Mountain Prairie versus Houston County lawsuit with Attorney Kubitschek. That's what you meant to say, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
That's my motion.
Yep. Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, we'll proceed with roll call.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
And District 5?
Yes.
All right. Passes into closed session at 9:59. If you would all give me a moment to send some folks to the waiting room. Recording's back on. Commissioner Burns motion, Commissioner Miller seconded, unanimously voted at 10:16 to return to open session. And I'll turn it over to Attorney Kubitschek for a brief update.
All right, thank you. Just to summarize, we went into closed session pursuant to the attorney-client privilege to discuss the Mountain Prairie Township case versus Houston County. It was necessary to go into closed session to discuss settlement options as well as settlement tactics and mechanisms moving forward. The case continues in litigation.
Okay, thank you, Jason.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too.
Jason.
Well, it's 10:18. Our next scheduled closed session with Attorney Squires is at 10:30.
Mm-hmm. Can see if I can get him on earlier. Otherwise, we can tackle a couple action items if you'd like.
Do you want to go to action item number 3, or what? Are we going to sit and wait for 10:30?
Well, I was thinking about that. If we went to action item number 3 on the cooperative agreement with the City of Caledonia on the water main looping project.
Actually, I'd ask to table that one. I just got a note from Sam that he had a couple open questions on that contract yet. So,
so that needs to be tabled.
yes, please.
Did Sam get that contract
Yes.
to review? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find one that probably isn't going to take a lot of time here.
So will that be tabled till January then? Does that slow us down on our whole project?
No, that doesn't slow us down. It's not a project that's going to be done now
Okay.
anyway, and Caledonia City wasn't looking to have it on their agenda for approval until January as
Okay.
well. So,
How about the action item number 12 on the approving the contract lease agreement with Pitney Bowes for postage machine? Donna, are you on?
Commissioners, I am on. Good morning.
Hey.
How are you?
Good morning. Good. How are you?
Good. Oh, this is the contract that every 5 years has to be renewed. And I was going to pull up the email I sent Jeff here quick. Anyway, the only change in the contract is we have to get a new machine, and it's $19 and some cents a quarter more. That would be the cost increase for the county for 5 years. It's a contract for 5 years, includes all maintenance that the county would incur, like that we would incur, like for any, if the machine needed updates or any kind of maintenance that's needed, it would be covered under that maintenance contract. So it's all included in that. Hang on one second. Oh, let's see here. Okay, and it is a government contract. It's called NAS Pro, State of Minnesota Government Contract. It enables the counties to get a better rate on these machines, and it is approved for government standards. So it is a government lease that is required every 5 years.
Every 5 years, yep.
Yep. And the machine is it's a Send Pro P series, and it has a meter, and so it's going to be pretty much the same machine as we've had in the past. Everything's the same, and they'll come deliver it, they'll set it up, and everything will be taken care of. Yeah, the increase is actually $18.90 per quarter extra. And that's pretty normal.
Per quarter or per month?
Per quarter.
Okay.
We pay this every quarter.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract lease agreement.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Bob. Any further discussion?
So then, Donna, you won't have to lick any stamps with this, is that correct?
That is correct. It seals automatically. Yeah,
Good.
we really used the postage machine this year for the elections, that's for sure.
I'm sure you probably wore it out. Yeah.
Pretty much.
All right. If there's no further discussion, we'll proceed with the roll call.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
Passes. All right. And we now have Attorney Squires on the line with us, if you'd like to jump back up to that item.
Okay.
I guess
We
need a motion to go to close.
yes, we do.
I'll make that motion.
Motion's made to go to closed session. Is there a
Okay.
second? Teresa seconds it.
Mr. Chair, we have to identify in the record the reason for closure, and the reason would be that it's closed for the attorney-client privilege to discuss a settlement proposal by Krukow in the case Krukow versus Houston County. So if the motion maker would acknowledge that's the basis for the motion, and the seconder as well, that would be good.
That's exactly what I was going to say in my motion, Jay.
Yeah, and he beat me to it, so I was going to make that clarification too. But okay, if there's no further discussion.
District 1,
Yes.
District
Yeah.
2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
and District 5.
Yes.
All right, passes at 10:25. And again, just give me a moment to pause recording and put folks into the waiting room. All right, for the sake of recording, Commissioner Burns moved, Commissioner Meyer seconded, all voted in favor, passed at 10:45 to resume the open session, and I'll turn it over to Attorney Squires for a brief summary of the closed session.
The board did, as the motion to go into closed session indicate, the board did go into closed session to discuss a proposal by Krukow Companies and the Krukow Companies versus Houston County litigation. The board discussed it and provided some direction to me.
Okay. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have good days. Merry Christmas, everybody.
You too.
Thank you, Jay. Same to you.
All right, we're ahead of schedule here. Any chance Eilers would be ready, or
I will text him and find his last email.
we could revert back to action item number 10. Consider approval of the abatement for John Fischel of Houston. Cindy, are you on? Cindy, are you on? Okay, well, we'll wait on that. How about consider approving the family child care variance policy? John, would that take very long, or?
I was just going to jump in and suggest that you consider that. It's pretty straightforward.
Yep.
What you have in front of you, commissioners, is historically counties are responsible for doing licensing of family child care providers. Generally, these are in-home family child care. We're also responsible to determine variances to those licensing requirements. Usually that would have to do with things like numbers of children that they're approved for under their license, as well as number of adults that need to be in the home, number of infants versus school or younger children, whatever. And due to recent legislation, we as a county are required to establish a policy for that and then post that so that those providers are aware of kind of what our criteria are. we just kind of codified that, put it together in a policy statement that's in front of you today. For the most part, these tend to be things like a provider comes to us and says, the Jones family has 2 kids in our child care. We're certified for 3 infants. They're having a baby. We would like to get a variance for 3 months until the oldest infant ages into the older group, stuff like that, so that we can keep families together or the like. They tend to be short-lived in nature because the intent of the licensing requirements is that there's adequate adult supervision and as compared to the children that they're serving. So pretty straightforward. It's something that we've done for quite some time. It's just codifying that in a policy statement that then we will post on our website.
Okay. Any questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the family child care variance policy.
Is there a second?
Second.
Jack seconds it. Any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed with roll call. We're going to do roll call, Jeff, on John's policy here.
District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
You're muted, Bob.
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
And who made the motion and seconded, please? Sorry.
Teresa made the motion and I believe Jack seconded it, right? Or was it? Yeah. Yep.
Jack did.
Yes, he did. Well, geez, bring me one, Jack. I mean, be fair here.
I could. I even frosted these.
Oh, man.
Yeah, special at Quick Trip today, I think.
All right.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thanks, John. All right. What's the verdict?
I've messaged Bruce. I haven't seen him jump on yet here.
Okay.
Hey, is Cindy on yet to do 10? No.
Lucas sit on there? Is that Lucas from their office?
Is Carol on?
Just let me find the variance. I'll bring a copy up and. The variance is, or the abatement, sorry. Looking for the notes. There was a change in the estimated market value. I think in adjusting the properties. If I caught this right from Cindy, one of the buildings was assigned to the wrong property, and they've corrected that, and it results in a $210 abatement.
Yeah, from what I understand, the value changed within the same year for whatever reason. It must have been the building situation.
Right.
Is there a motion to approve the abatement for John Fischel of Houston?
So move.
Is there a second? I'll second that myself. Any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed with roll call.
District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
Yes.
District 4.
Yeah.
District 5.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Passes. Mr. Kimmel is working to join up. Had a problem with the link connection, so I just resent him the link.
Has everybody had a chance to look over that proposal from Eilers?
Yes.
All right, hopefully we'll have one here in a second. Here he is, bringing him in right now.
Good morning.
Morning, Bruce.
Morning.
Morning, Bruce. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
All right, if you're ready, Bruce, we'll turn the floor over to you to walk us through your proposal.
Great. Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, commissioners. It's good to see you, albeit remotely. I look forward to getting down to Caledonia, hopefully in not too distant future again. So as you know, this is a proposed bond financing to fund a portion of the proposed highway facility that you've been looking at for some time now. This step, if you may recall, we call it the pre-sale report and the set sale discussion. This is really just an opportunity for us to walk through our assumptions regarding the recommended financing plan, to see what questions or comments you have, to adjust the financing plan as you see fit, and to really get your green light for moving forward with the actual financing. The actual financing would occur next month in January of 2021. And at that point is when you would actually be awarding the bonds to the winning bidder and entering into the loan or the debt agreement. This is really, again, just to get the green light from you and to make sure that you're all on board with this proposed financing plan. So I'll just hit a few of the highlights from the report. I won't go through every detail. I know how much you would love to talk about arbitrage rebate and post-issuance compliance, but we can skip over some of those details.
Oh, I was looking forward to that myself.
I'm sure you were. That's everyone's favorite topic, federal tax compliance on municipal bonds. But again, you can see here on the first page that we're looking to sell state aid bonds. So the idea is that these bonds will be backed with your full faith and credit, GO pledge of the county, but you're intending to use a portion of your state aid allotments in coming years to pay this debt service back. This is actually a pretty slick, very seamless financing option available to counties for this type of facility, as well as, of course, for specific state aid highway projects. Right now, you're looking at a proposed repayment term of a total of 16 years. The actual principal repayment would be over 15 years. I'm recommending that the first year be interest only so that there's not a sudden jolt or impact on your use of state aids. It gives you and your highway engineer a little bit of time to prepare that. But then starting in April of 2023 would be when the first dollars would go towards repaying principal on the bonds. And importantly, you would have the ability to prepay as soon as April of 2030, so roughly 9 years from the issuance date. And after that, you could either pay off bonds or refinance for interest cost savings. These bonds will be bank qualified. That means that banks that are looking to bid on the bonds are going to have a greater incentive to propose a very low interest rate to the county, so that's a good thing. And as you may recall, you have a very strong AA rating from Standard & Poor's. We've gone through a number of rating processes during the pandemic over the last year and have a really good handle on some of the additional questions they're asking of issuers like the county. We don't anticipate any problems. You have a good team there. You're very stable financially, and I have no doubt that working with Jeff and Carol, you'll go through that rating process with flying colors.
What's the criteria to be AAA?
You'd have to be a lot bigger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, or have an insane amount of fund balances. The extent to which I would never recommend that a county hold threshold. It would be politically unjustifiable to have
Oh yeah, definitely.
fund balance to make S&P happy.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, but in theory, it could happen. The truth is, though, rates are so low right now overall, and I'll talk more about that in a moment, that the rate differential between AAA and AA is not even close to what it used to be.
Okay.
They're very compressed.
All right.
So you're getting near AAA rates at the AA rate level.
All right.
I do want to note that it's possible that this bond issue will yield, right now, the way we have it structured, as you probably saw, the bonds are sized to yield $3 million of project funding for the project. So the bond size is $3,090,000, and it's netting $3 million after issuance costs or estimated issuance costs for the project. It's possible that the winning bidder will bid a premium, and so if the county board and county staff saw fit, this $3.1 million issue could actually net more than that in terms of proceeds due to the winning bidder bidding additional money for the rights to buy the bond, essentially. So we can talk a little bit more about whether you want to dial in just exactly $3 million of funding, or whether, if the opportunity presents itself with very low interest rates, would you be inclined to retain some of that reoffering premium just to have a little bit more flexibility and funding capacity for the project? So that's something that I would be interested in hearing your thoughts on. That, everyone, is really what I wanted to cover. We can help to the extent you see fit with investing some of these bond proceeds. There are some decent options to at least earn a little bit of money during the construction period. We never try to force that onto clients, but if that's something of interest to you and your staff, we could certainly share some ideas we would have on investing the bond proceeds so that you're earning a little bit before those funds are needed for the project. Let me then just talk about the debt schedule very briefly. You can see there's a couple pages there where, again, funding or sizing this proposed bond issue to fund $3 million of project costs, and you can see that estimated debt service is just about $230,000 per year. That said, these interest rates are actually more than 25 basis points over the current market. And so, believe it or not, if you hold these bonds today, your overall interest rate wouldn't be roughly 1.5%. It would actually be closer to 1.2%. It's hard to believe that rates are so low, but that's exactly what we're seeing right now. Let me stop there and ask what questions you have or observations on the funding proposal that we've put together with Jeff and Carol. Thank you.
Bruce, if we were to opt to try to earn some interest while we're waiting to make our payments, when we're borrowing at 1.2, what could we expect to get from investing?
It wouldn't be, Commissioner Miller, it wouldn't be a large amount, but there are some funds that we're familiar with and that we work with other clients investing bond proceeds into that certainly earn a lot more than the Magic Fund does, for instance. So we know that you have to keep those funds relatively liquid. There might be some laddering opportunities depending on the construction draw schedule, but first and foremost is safety, right? And then liquidity, having the money when you need it. And then the third priority is yield, and that's the way it should be. But right now, the the Magic Fund is earning next to nothing. And so depending on what options you might have with some of the deposit institutions that you work with, and whether they would have an appetite to take these monies and collateralize them, and what kind of yield you could get, I just wanted to throw that out as an option that you might be able to earn, let's say, upwards of 20, 25 basis points on investments, which isn't a great amount of money, but it's certainly better than earning 2 or 3 or 4 basis points with the Magic Fund.
So these are your ideas you would share with Carol then, and she could give us a...
Right. And really, again, I want to emphasize that it's just sharing information. If she sees fit to do that, great. If she thinks there's better options or options that she's more comfortable with elsewhere, then that's totally fine too. We really want to make sure you see our work on the bond side being separate from any possible work on the investment side.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just to clarify on the chance for interest rate adjustment, that has to happen after 9 years.
It doesn't have to happen, Commissioner Johnson. You can opt for an earlier call feature. We think that in the current market, you'll certainly pay no penalty in terms of your interest rate by requiring a call feature in 2030 and any date thereafter. But if you and the board wanted to have these bonds callable sooner, we could certainly write that in as a condition, say, 2028. And even there may be bidders that would still bid the same interest rates that they would otherwise. But the shorter you get with that call provision, the more chance there is that a bidder might say, we'll still bid, but we want a higher interest rate, right? Because they have that certainty for as long.
Right.
It's kind of it's a balancing act.
Yep, I get that. And, interest rates where they're at now is really good, so.
Exactly. It's pretty, we're, believe it or not, the biggest index that we look at in the muni market is called the Bond Buyer Index, and it's a weekly rate index for bonds that are maturing 20 years from now. And so right now, they're looking at bonds that are maturing in roughly December of 2040. And we are close to all-time historic lows again in that rate. It was the lowest point ever in history last summer, and then it came up a little bit, and now it's almost back down to that all-time low rate, close to 2% basically for that 20-year index rate. So, certainly we would see future refunding opportunities just because of the way the yield curve works. In 9 years from now, rates should allow for some refunding opportunity, but the chances of doing substantially better are probably pretty low, I would think.
Bob?
Well, question with regard to the, when you said that some bidders would pay more for the opportunity to bid. Well, if they did that, is this a little extra money, but are we paying a higher interest rate, or what's the negative as far as that?
Exactly, Commissioner. Great question. Jeff, do I have the ability to share my screen?
You should, yeah.
Cool. Let me just pull up, if I can just do a little show and tell here. All right. There it is. All right, can everyone see what I just pulled up?
Yep.
Yes.
So this is a bond issue that we just sold for the city of Mounds View yesterday. And it was for utility projects. And so they were able to, they have a AA rating just like you. They were able to get the state credit enhancement because it's for water and sewer work. But that doesn't mean that they got AAA rates. It's just maybe AA plus level rates. So very, very close to what we would expect Houston County to get. And what I wanted to focus on in response to the commissioner's question is the winning bid came from Baird, as you can see, along with a long list of co-bidders as part of their syndicate. You can see this is a 15-year financing. And this is a relatively modest amount of premium, but you can see that Baird proposed coupon rates, so those are the face value interest rates, starting out at 2% and then going up. And then after the call date, which is in 2030, you can see they drop down to 1% and then up to 1.25% in 2036. The actual yields, given the premium that they bid, are ranging from 0.16% in 2022 up to 1.25%. So basically no premium on that tail end after the call date. And so this is really what we're seeing in the market. And I don't know exactly how much dollar premium was provided, but you can see just ballpark sense, the original financing offer was for 6.14 million, and Baird offered a price of 6.4. There's some behind the scenes math that needs to happen, but you can see that basically they offered a couple $100,000 of premium. And I'm pretty sure in this case, Mounds View didn't need any extra money. So they actually took that premium and used it to reduce the size of the bond issue to 5.8 million. So, Commissioner, to your point, you know, if $3 million is all you need, then I would say for sure, and if you really feel strongly about using cash, and I know you do have some ample cash reserves that you've talked about using it towards this project, then I would say don't even hesitate, use the reoffering premium to basically allow yourselves to reduce the bond size, and then that gives you the lowest overall borrowing cost, right? But if you saw fit, because maybe there's other possible uses of some of that cash, or because interest rates are so low, or maybe some combination that you wanted to hold on to some of that premium, then in your case, you know, we could be looking at maybe banking 3.1 or 3.2 or perhaps even more, but probably 3.1 to 3.2 million towards the project. And know that, yes, it maybe increased your overall borrowing cost by a little bit to hold on to that premium, but it's still at a very low effective interest rate. We want to give bidders as much flexibility to bid the coupons that they think are going to be attractive to their investors, no matter what the actual yields are. And you might ask, well, my goodness, if an investor is buying that 2022 bond, don't they know that their yield is 0.16% instead of 2%? And they do, but there's still a psychological benefit, and there's some logic, I guess, in terms of if the investor wants the option to sell in the secondary market, resell that bond that they bought, they think they're going to do better reselling it if it has a better coupon, even if the yield itself is quite low. So it's a little bit of smoke and mirrors, but none of that matters really to you, because we're still focused on the overall lowest true interest cost, and our calculations really compare the bids on an apples to apples basis. So that was the long-winded response, but I hope that was helpful.
No, that was very helpful. That is good information. And I could see that's the strategy that they use to go to the secondary market. So,
right, exactly. Let me stop sharing and ask. So, if I can ask, typically I answer questions, I don't ask questions, but let me ask you, if there was an opportunity to net more towards the project, maybe you already have a firm answer on this. Do you like just saying, yep, Ellers, go with the $3 million because we know that's what we want? Or would you want us to work with Jeff and Carol after getting the bids on Monday, January 25th to possibly net a little bit more towards the project fund?
Well, I guess on my individual opinion on that, I would, if we were to get some premium, I would put that towards lowering that 3 million request to if it's 200,000 to 2.8. But we do have that sewer project. Depends on where that comes in at. That could be in the range of 130,000. That's the only thing I can think of that would, unless there's another surprise. But I'd like to keep that request as low as we could, and that premium would be helpful. That's just my thoughts on it.
And I should emphasize that from a financial perspective, there's no right or wrong answer. I was on a Zoom call with the city of Maplewood last night for their bond issue. They're building a new fire station, and I had to stress to them, you're both in really good financial shape. I'm not giving you advice one way or the other. It's really a true policy decision on whether you want to downsize the bond or net a little bit more towards the project.
Bob?
If we did the premium and using $200,000 as a number, we end up netting 3.2 instead of 3. If the project got more expensive, like you were talking about, Eric, with the water project and unknowns, that's 200,000 that we could use towards the unknowns. If there are no unknowns, then that's 2.8 that we have to pay back instead of. I mean, we can reduce the cost of the bond then, right?
Right. But we'd have to decide that when we accept the issue, correct, Bruce?
Well, yes, and really even before that, because the way things will work is,
Okay.
and you don't need to decide it today. That's the
No,
other
no,
thing to
no.
mention is you can kind of give informal guidance to Jeff and Carol, and then I can talk with them more. But on Monday the 25th, when we take bids, we'll need to know what the county wants to do, and it's often a staff call. They'll say, okay, all things being equal, we want to do X or Y. I just know that county boards often have a direct interest in this. And so then when I present to you on Tuesday, the 26th, we will have the bonds resized or not as appropriate and really be presenting a final package to you. There really won't be an opportunity to do further revisions at that point.
Okay.
But, you know, based on this feedback and maybe some things that might still come into focus over the next month, Jeff and Carol and I could chat on Monday the 25th and say, yep, let's, you know, keep it at $3 million of project funding or do something else.
On the 25th.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So will some of the contracts that weren't awarded and maybe some of the questions, do you think they'll be answered by then and we'd have more of a definite
Well, that's what I was
number?
That's what I was wondering. We might have some more definite figures to consider by then. I don't know about that water project, if that would be ready or not, but we need to get that that cooperative agreement agreed on first and foremost. So
Are we going to have a finance meeting, Bob, with Carol beforehand to discuss some of this, or what do you think?
We will.
Okay.
Well, commissioners, you know, maybe at this point we just sort of assume that we're shooting, regardless of what happens with the bids, that you're targeting the $3 million. But you know, if there's things that materialize, like Carol said, with the project bids or other projects or what have you, you know, between now and then, you can just sort of know that Jeff and Carol will give me further guidance. And again, this is not make or break in any way, but I just didn't want there to be any surprises with me coming, you know, with something on the 26th and you say, hey, wait a second, I thought we were going to do this or what have you. So.
But we're locked on the 3 million as I'm understanding it. I mean, you got to advertise this, get it out there, and then it's on the 26th that you bring it to us as far as what we're going to accept then, right? Right.
Well, commissioners, I wouldn't suggest any changes to the structure right now, because this is structured. This $3,090,000 issue is structured to yield $3 million for you already, and we don't know how much premium you'll get.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're good to go with this proposal. If you think, you know, funding a $3 million, at least $3 million is the right answer. It's just a question of, you know, if the opportunity presents itself, would you want to net any more for the project on the actual sale day?
Yep.
But at this point, you know, we can proceed with the resolution that basically just gives us the green light to go forward with the bond structure and advertising it, like you said, Commissioner.
Right. That's what we're here. That's what we're to decide today on approving the resolution and advertise for bids. Is there any further questions from the board?
We can pay the $3 million off anytime we want.
No, not for. I got to wait 9 years.
Okay.
30.
Right. And remember, you're using state aid dollars to a fairly small portion of your state aid allotments, but still state aid dollars. That would be, basically at the beginning of every year, you'll be confirming with MnDOT that you want, let's say the numbers do end up being, $230,000, that you want $230,000 to come out of the allotment and go towards paying principal and interest on 4/1 of every year, and then an interest payment on 10/1 of every year.
Right.
So, Carol, just for clarification, we've talked about using the wheelage tax to make this payment. That's not considered state aid dollars, is it?
It isn't, but it would just really be a swap. But knowing that we have that 200,000 coming in for the wheelage tax, it's just a swap of the state aid money.
Yep.
And that's very common. I'm sorry for interrupting, but you see a lot of counties, technically you're using your state aid because it comes direct and it's required per the statute, but a lot of counties use either TST dollars or wheelage tax dollars to essentially offset the usage of the state aid.
Okay.
So do we need a motion or something?
We need a motion to approve the resolution 2058, providing the sale of a $3,090,000 general obligation state aid bond.
I'll make a motion. So move.
Motion's been made by Greg. Is there a second? Well, actually, yeah. Thank you. First of all, thank you, Bruce, for attending and giving us this information.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yep.
I'll second the motion with a comment that, quite frankly, I had something behind my head, but stuff still went over it with the premium and so forth. So my second includes a request that the finance committee clarify this and give me some, this is A and this is B, and if we do A, and not that you didn't explain it well, Bruce, it's just that I need a little more time to absorb. So, but I still second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? And what you brought up, Jack, I'm sure they will have discussion with the finance committee on this before that 25th date. So if there's no further discussion, we'll proceed with roll call.
District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
And District 5.
Yes.
Thank you, Bruce. Appreciate
Thank you.
Yep.
And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to all of you, and stay well. I look forward to talking to you next month.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. Talk to you soon.
Okay, action item number 2, consider approving resolution 2062 for post-issuance debt compliance policy and adopting a post-issuance debt compliance policy and procedures. Carol.
Yes, and you heard Bruce reference the IRS and their requirements, and this is a policy that we need to have in place to make sure that we are providing the information, tracking the information if they would request, if the IRS would request it. We do it actually in conjunction with Ellers to make sure that we have all the latest IRS regulations that we need to know.
Yep, that's good.
Yeah. And they like to see formally adopted policies.
So is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
I'll second it.
Teresa seconds it. Any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed with roll call.
District 1,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
and 5.
Yes.
Passes. Thank you.
Okay. And we're skipping over action item number 3
Yes, thank you.
and moving on to action item number 4. Consider approval of the labor agreement between the 49ers and Houston County. Tess?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Yes, just a brief overview of what this contract represents. This is a merged agreement between the two 49ers groups that we have. And so it required quite a bit of, to merge them, quite a bit of time to set and make sure that we had all the detail correct. So that's the first thing you notice. You only have one agreement instead of two before you. There are 0 COLAs for 2021. So what you have in front of you is a request for a 3-year agreement, 2021, 22, and 23, with all language in the tentative agreement to be in place for that term. And we would have what we call a wage opener only for year 22 and year 23. The change in healthcare is the health benefits, health insurance, I should say, is what we spent most of our time discussing in committee and in negotiations. One of the units had the county health plan, the other unit had the 49ers health plan. When we merged the documents, we agreed that they could all participate in the 49ers health plan. So that's one change there. The second change is that in looking at employer contribution levels, the committee determined to make an employer contribution of 95% of the health premium for January and February. Now, the reason why, when you read through that is, why would you just do 2 months into the year? We have to keep in mind that the 49ers health plan is not on a regular calendar year. It's on a March to March year. So we are staying at the would be 95% of that. They do not have a single plan or a family plan, so this is for what they call a composite or combined plan. And then thereafter, we negotiated for any increases to be capped at 4.9% per year. However, that cap could be cumulated during the term of this agreement. So, for instance, if in year, I think the easiest example would be in year 1, they came up with a 0% increase, but year 2, they had a 6% increase, we would compound the 4.9 plus 4.9 and say we'd be responsible for any actual increases up to that combined amount, so that we know exactly what we're dealing with. Those are, and they are set forth numerically as well as in language, starting on page 13. So we've capped our contributions, if you will, for year 2022 to, I suppose I should start with 2021. We've capped our contributions for 2021 to $1,260.64 per employee, and then we have similar caps for year 22 and 23. Other than that, I think those are the major changes. Everything else is language that's subsequent to the merger. Obviously we had to work with Bureau of Mediation Services to get approval for the new recognition clause, and so things like that. Questions? Yes, Commissioner Burns.
I have a question in the contract under the holidays category.
Oh, yes. I neglected to mention that, didn't I? What's your question?
Item A, it talks down below in the highlighted paragraph. It starts out the 1/2 day. It's talking about the half day for Christmas Eve, and then the 1/2 day explanation. But it seems kind of, when I read that paragraph, it sounds like the half day turns into a whole day or something.
No, what happens is when it's only Christmas Eve. It's literally Christmas Eve half day will only be observed Monday through Thursday of the work week, because if Christmas Eve is on Thursday, then Christmas Day is on Friday. So it doesn't turn into a whole day. It's because of the Christmas Day holiday. We have to work with that. So is that a Friday, or is that a Saturday, or is that a Sunday? And depending upon how that falls, the individual will get the half day.
So it's limited to a half day. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. And we put that limitation in 2 places. We mention it up in paragraph A with an asterisk, and again down below that paragraph in the narrative.
When I read the asterisk narrative, it was confusing to me.
It is confusing, but we've had several sets of eyes on it to make sure it covers all contingencies there, all combinations of that holiday. And that half day, by the way, commissioners, brings is something that in those vacation days, I was going to say some of the other unions have anywhere between a half day or a whole day. Also, the change in this contract you will see is that I have to get back to my page of holidays here.
Well, I can vouch for the fact there was many eyes on this. So.
Many eyes. It took us quite a while. Also, they acknowledged Martin Luther King Day and gave up the floating holiday in its stead, and that was at the union's request. So there were changes that you'll see such as that, but those were dollar for dollar changes. So I respectfully request that the board adopt this, approve this contract for January 1, 2021 to December 31st, 2023.
And it should be noted that the Personnel Committee recommended this too.
Absolutely. This is coming out of the Personnel Committee.
Yeah.
The Personnel Committee spent quite a bit of time on it, and the Personnel Committee being Commissioner Johnson and Commissioner Miller. And then we had Carol in and out as we needed it for financials.
And Jeff also, yeah.
And excuse me, absolutely. Jeff was in the committee. Sorry, Jeff.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve this labor agreement with the 49ers?
Anybody on personnel want to move it?
I would move to approve it.
And I will second that. Is there any more discussion? If not, we'll proceed with roll call.
Thank you. District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
Passes. Thank you.
And thank you, commissioners, and thank you to the Personnel Committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to action item number 5. Consider approving the 2020 departmental budget amendments and the CARES Act budget amendments. Carol.
Yes, what we're intending to do with these amendments is to get each of the departments allocated their funding for the CARES Act for purchases that were made through their department. We'll split the money, pass it, or allocate it to each of the departments that had expenditures. We'll then update their budgets so that it reflects the actual activity. The only exception to that will be for the payroll that was allocated with the CARES money, the $291,172.53. That money will remain in the general fund. Actually, there'll be a split between Human Services and the general fund. And that will be used to, since the salaries were already budgeted, we'll use that to reduce our budget deficit that we had. That way it will be down to $42,000 as opposed to the $429,000 budget deficit that we had. And that is, of course, in combination with the second part of these budget amendments where we review each department to see if their revenues were in line, their expenditures were in line, and we make adjustments to those. And that changes our budget by $114,360. So that income combined with the CARES payroll money brings our budget deficit down. It's typical that we do this at the end of the year for audit purposes. They recommend budget amendments so there aren't variances between your expenditures or your revenues in your budgets. And it will typically line it up closer with the prior year or last 3 years. And then there are less likely to have to explain variances during the audit. I don't know if anybody looking through had any questions on the numbers.
Carol, does the $114,360, does that take into consideration the payroll dollars that you talked about, or are they not yet?
No, the payroll dollars are added to that. So the total change in the budget
is the 335,118. No.
Oops. Okay, hang on. Trying to operate my calculator without looking. Oops. Okay, so the 114,360 are just basic changes from our regular budget. And we add to that the 291,173 from the full CARES. So we're changing our budget, decreasing our budget deficit by $405,533.
So that reduces what came out of the fund balances that we used to balance the budget for 2020 when we did this last year.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motions are made to approve Okay, Teresa seconds it.
Yes.
Any further discussion?
Thank you, Carol.
Welcome.
If there's no further discussion, we'll proceed with roll call.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Greg?
Mr. Chairman?
Just met Jack. Okay.
Yeah.
District 5? Sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Motion passes.
Go ahead, Jack.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean. How about a 5-minute break?
Sure. Everybody need a 5-minute break right now? We'll take it. If that's okay with everybody else.
Yes.
All right.
How are you doing, Greg?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good now. I'm got everything fixed. I had some blockage. I went in and put a stent.
Oh, good for you.
Getting a little stronger every day. It's
Oh, that's good.
quite a bit different diet and a whole ball of wax.
Oh, gosh.
They
I
do
know
those.
my mother had about 5 stents put in, and it made a difference.
Oh man, I felt the difference afterwards. An hour later.
Good.
Took them 1 hour to do it. Couldn't believe it.
Isn't it amazing what they can do?
Jesus.
My dad was in the doctor's office, Greg, while you were getting yours done, and found out he needed some work. And on Friday, he had 3 stents put in.
Wow.
So,
It went right in my wrist. I couldn't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
I left my room at 1:45 and I was back at 2:00.
Oh, good for you. So now you're going to be eating salad a lot.
I eat a lot of eggs now. But it's kind of boring when you got nobody over there to talk to.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I'll get into the stent conversation. Janet has 7.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm. It's a good thing.
Did she have them all put in at one time, Jack, or at several different?
Several different times, Greg. Yeah. Who's your cardiologist?
I guess I can't. I got some weird names over there. I can't explain her name right now. The main nurse I had was she was a Dr. Dolan, Michael Dolan's daughter. You know him?
Yes.
His daughter's there now, and she's going to come back and take over his practice. So she's pretty damn good.
Good for her. Yeah.
So is Bob back with us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't see you on the screen, but
I can.
Right.
okay.
so we have everybody back.
Yep.
There he is.
All right, let's move on to action item number 6. Consider adopting the 2021 non-union wage grid with 0% COLA adjustment. You've had a, go ahead, Tess.
It's a carry forward. We're asking all the unions to go for a 0 COLA, and it's and where the personnel committee met and determined that it's our recommendation that we have a 0% across the board for the non-represented wage grids as well. This does not, please note, this does not preclude any employee from moving through their steps. This just means that we are not adjusting the grid with any upward adjustments.
And that is what we recommended as personnel.
Mm-hmm. That's what that's what I mentioned, that we recommended that. So if you're wondering who the non-represented personnel are, the non-represented personnel, there's a nurses grid on there, public health nurses. It is also the finance director, myself, the IT director, the IT staff, and the assistant county attorney, I believe, are the current ones.
I think we discussed this in our workshop also.
Yep.
Well, by accepting this 0 COLA, after the negotiations are done with the unions, can we go back and do something about this, or are we locked in?
We're locked in.
No, that's you're locked in on salaries for elected officials that you set annually. You are not locked in on your employees. You can make changes to your employee's salary, but your elected officials, not for this not to be confused with them, you set their salaries on an annual basis. So if there is, say, catch up to do, it would have to be done the next time you set next December.
Right. So am I right then, if we get done with all the union negotiations, and let's just say they end up at 1% for whatever reason, can we go back to these non-represented employees and give them the same? I mean, that's typically what's been done. Whatever
If you choose to do so, you may do so.
We're not locked in.
No.
No, sir.
No.
Right.
So these employees have counterparts and peers, if you will, that are in AFSCME and in MAPE for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, if there's no other questions, do we have a motion to consider the adopting the non-union wage grid with a 0% COLA?
I'd make that motion.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Teresa seconds it. Any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed with a roll call.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
And District 5?
Yes.
Passes.
Next item is action item number 7. Consider approving resolution 2059 to approve the 2021 salary for Houston County elected officials. And
Yeah, I can bring it up on screen if you'd like, but based on the discussions at the Personnel Committee and last week's work group session, the salary for the auditor treasurer changes by $7 to align with the recommendations based off of the wage grid scale for non-union. The recorder's position is increased to match the step increase, as is the sheriff's, and then the county attorney's stays the same as well.
Right.
And the commissioners.
And the commissioners
stays the same.
Stays the same. but it doesn't hinder the step process for the sheriff or the recorder.
It takes that into account and adds the step
right
for the sheriff and the
It
recorder.
adds a step. Yep.
Yeah, and so
and
number wise, commissioners are at 19,016.34. The county auditor at 83,657.60. The county recorder 65,998.40. Sheriff at 107,598.40. And the county attorney at 116,653.66.
Do we have a motion to adopt this resolution?
So we weren't going to do anything as far as the board,
As far as what?
county board.
I thought you brought up
that would stay the same on this resolution. Same it's been for many years.
No, it was just discussion at the workshop last time about lowering.
reducing, yeah. So we would have to change it before we made the motion to accept that. And I know, Eric, you mentioned dropping it and Bob, but
I didn't mention dropping it last Tuesday. That was your mention.
oh, okay.
I did call around. We're the lowest in Southeast Dakota.
I would make a motion to accept this as presented.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed with the roll call.
District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
District 5.
Yep.
Passes.
Okay. Action item number 8. Consider approving resolution 2060, the final budget. Carol.
All right. So through our budgeting process and changes that were made, we ended up with the expenditure budgets as reflected on the sheet. 29,346,611. Okay, I'm looking at this and I just want to get it straight. Actually, our revenues are 29,346,611 for the total. Our expenditures actually come in at 29,311,947 with that budgeted surplus of 34,000. Hang on. We have everything up here. $34,664 if we maintain the 0% levy increase. So
I'll put it up on the screen. Does this reflect this correctly? 29,311,947.
Oh, okay. That's not okay. So that's not the one that was in the packet that I was looking at. Yes.
I just changed it to match that change you just mentioned. Yep.
Oh, okay. So then over in the revenues, over the expenditures, it will show the 34,664.
One correction. That does not take into consideration the $23,136 of interest that we would pay in October, I think it is, for the bond, that $3 million bond.
And I think actually, I mentioned asking Bruce about that, but we would actually be levying that for in next year's. When you look at their sheet, that is included in the 2022 payment schedule. Even though it's in October, it's part of that 2022 amount that we'll levy.
Isn't that in the 90,000 or am I wrong on that? It's 3,090,000.
But that the 90,000 doesn't include any of our payments.
No.
Okay.
But I do believe in looking at that pre-sale report that even though we're paying it in October, it's considered part of our 2022 levy.
How can that be in reverse?
It's the way it's calculated, and it has been that way. I did pull up all the other bonds that we're making payments on, and that first year is like that. And I guess, you know, in retrospect too, when we refinanced the 2020 in the 2020A, our levy, which we had set in December, included about $24,000 or so of excess levy because our payments ended up being lower. So technically, we do have that money that we've already levied. So we can either look at it that we're using that money to pay the bond payment that's in our account already, or we can consider it part of our 2022 levy.
It makes more sense. It doesn't make sense to me to consider it as part of 2022 when it's 2021 payment. But all right.
It does seem strange. Bond payments are kind of strange because, well, then we actually have to levy 105% of our payments. And then the last year of that bond schedule, we don't have to levy because we've already got that buildup in there, but that's a requirement of the statutes.
Well, no. What you just said there, we have to levy 105%
of our payments.
So that'll be on our budget item for next year.
Right.
Correct, right?
Right.
But we're using our plan, like I said, we're using the wheelage tax to pay it. So
right. So
we can use that to zero that out, correct?
Correct.
All right. You get me nervous, Carol, when you talk about levy stuff. So
yes, I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
All that said, I'll make a motion to approve the final budget for 2021 with a net surplus of $34,000 some odd dollars and a zero levy.
Motion's been made by Bob. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Teresa seconds it. Any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed with roll call.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
I would like to thank Bob and Greg and on the finance committee and all the finance committee members and Jeff and Carol on working on this budget. It's been quite a challenging year for this and figured out the CARES Act in how it plays with this. So kudos to all you. Action item number 9, consider approving resolution 2061 final certified levy. Carol.
Jeff, do you have the updated copy where it takes into account the one in the packet shows the levy as what our expenditures are, and I sent you the one that reflects the additional 35,000. Okay, there we go. So this all came about from, plugging those budget numbers in and making the reductions and the board's desire to have a 0% levy increase. And, barring some things that aren't settled yet, including the contracts, with a 0% levy increase, the allocation to the different funds. Our total levy will be $13,527,998, which is the same amount as the levy for 2020. Our CPA did drop down slightly, just $4,000. So our total net levy is $12,439,721, which reflects the 0% levy increase then.
So that CPA, that's locked in, right?
Yes, that's certified by the state.
Okay. And when do you get notified on that?
Typically in August or so.
Okay. I suppose you don't have any indications what it's going to be next year.
No.
No. Yeah.
We just keep our fingers crossed that their budget forecasts hold.
Mhm.
I mean, it's looking better each time they put out a forecast. So,
Yep. I agree.
now they're going. Now they're doing the additional money for the businesses. So I guess I'm not sure how that's going to play in. But.
Well, that's just it. Then that changes the surplus or deficit. So, yeah. I myself would like to see. I've always been proclaiming to have a 0% levy, but I myself would like to see a -1. I don't know what you guys' thoughts on that. We need to, I know there's unknowns coming down the pike, but it would give some relief to the taxpayers if we could, a little bit of relief to give them a -1 levy.
Carol, didn't we do this a couple of years ago?
We did a 0.5 levy decrease.
5 decrease. Okay.
In, was it 2018?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that rings a bell.
Well, no, actually it was the last year of your previous term. So that it actually would have been 4 years ago.
Yeah, 2016.
Mm-hmm.
To do that, we'd have to take it out of fund
reserves. Yep.
Plus, we've got the negotiations with the unions that whatever that ends up is going to come out of fund balance as well.
Well, that's the wild card.
Right.
Carol, where do we stand with fund balance versus the state's recommendation at this point?
In all of the funds, we're actually relatively close, except highway. They've, through the flooding and all of the different things that have happened, they do end up having more than the recommended amount. The general fund maintaining the 50% and having those things designated that the county board had talked about for capital projects, the money for the jail, different things. We're actually a little under the 50% recommendation. But those items do add up to a total of a couple $2 million. And it could be reviewed to see if some of the expenditures that we have in our current budget for improvements or different things could be taken out of that money rather than be a budget line item. But either way, it's going to be using fund balance.
I think we did a pretty good job just to get to 0. And that's what we always talked about. Now going to a negative, I don't think we're setting a precedent that we are. I know that the economy and whatnot is a difficulty. We're getting money from the state besides the CARES money now to help businesses. I don't think going to a negative is appropriate, because costs are still going up as far as what we have to pay for things. Getting to a zero was a struggle. Taking out a fund balance, I mean, robbing from Peter to pay Paul it's going to come back to bite us someday. So from my perspective, I'm happy at the zero.
A 1% reduction. Go ahead, Teresa.
I'm happy with the zero. I've talked to other counties over the years that when they went less than that, it seemed to bite them in the future. And like our costs are going up, and I think we did great getting down to zero.
No, we did. Yep, I'm not arguing that point at
I
all.
don't want to go less than zero, personally.
Yeah, and I totally agree with your sentiment, Eric, but I'm a little bit too conservative to go below zero, because there's just a lot of unknowns on the other side too. And so I'd be happy with zero.
Well, I get that. It was just a suggestion. I'm just roughly figuring it'd be 120,000. Is that correct, Carol? I mean, 1%. But
right.
I fear of what's coming down the pike too, as far as our county program aid, and loss of revenue here and there. It is a concern to me, in the fact that the taxes that have gone up for a segment of the population. But I understand your concerns, or your opinions also on this. So it's on the docket here to approve the levy at zero for 2021.
I'll move to adopt the zero levy.
Motions have been made by Jack to adopt the zero levy for 2021. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Bob seconds. Any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed with roll call.
Just again clarifying that motion was to adopt Resolution 2061, the final certified levy.
Correct.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
And District 5?
Yes.
Passes.
Okay. We already did action item number 12. Now we'll move on to action item number 13. Consider approving the Minnesota Historical and Cultural Heritage Grant Agreement. Tess?
Commissioners, this is a second visit of on this matter. I was asked to go back and look to see what we could do about getting concrete steps in, and we do have one proposal. I sent it to the commissioners. I don't know if you have that in your packet or not. On the concern with the proposal we have on the concrete steps is that we see this as, and I talked with Brian Pogozinski, the county engineer, about this, and don't pretend to speak on his behalf, but I did want to get his insights. And this is more of a short-term fix rather than a long-term fix. The disclaimer, of course, being that a disclaimer for any kind of freezing, thawing, or damage due to sinking. Well, those are the problems that we're trying to fix. So it is my recommendation that we go with the long-term project and with long-term results, and to accept the Minnesota Historic Society's matching grants, and that our team will work very hard to eliminate and lower any costs that we can. We do realize those were on the high side for the purpose of forecasting any the grant requires us to write in several contingencies. So it's our recommendation to approve the grant for the 71,510
I talked
and
to
10
Brian.
of the contract.
I talked to Brian also just to get a clarification on your email, Tess, and what he relayed to me was that his main concern was the lack of detail, exactly what he was going to do in the project. Not the work. That disclaimer at the end is a standard disclaimer that concrete contractors use for liability reasons.
Okay.
And when you look over this bid, you can see that he has added in, there's some add-ins that we could add in as far as the form liners to make it look like big stone. There's an ad for $1,320 for the colored concrete and the walls to look like stone, and there's another ad in here for see, where is that, on the steps also, to make them match to what they look like now. So $985. So that would bring the total estimate up to $11,911.50. Plus, it looks like he was waiting for a quote from electrical for heated steps, so you wouldn't have to use so much salt.
Right, we were looking at that as well on the other. My concern is that, and we supplied them with the drawings, the engineer's drawings and architect's drawings, but we did not. It's the sinking and not seeing that we really have the proper I'm concerned about the foundation or the footings.
Oh yeah, and we could get that verified from Meyer Concrete.
Okay. So those are the two proposals in front of you that we have.
With regard to the Meyer Concrete proposal, there are a few things missing, plus the add-ons. But if they have to redo the foundation, if they have to put in different foundations based on this cost, it can't be. I mean, even if you consider doubling it in order to do the foundation, you're still less than $25,000. But it does, the other thing that I see that's missing, I don't see. Do I see handrails anyplace? Are we going to put railings on this?
That's supposed to be included, and that was the request, and I don't see those there as either. So there'd be other add-ons. I just got a note from the Greg, the foreman, and we understand that the electric would that they indicated the tubing, not including labor, would run around, so I'm not sure what all it's including, but running around $14K for heat tubes and some of the other components, not including labor.
14,000.
Yeah.
That's his estimate, but that's not the contractor's estimate.
No, that's what he got from. That's what I understand. Mr. Myers told him.
Oh, okay.
That they indicated that it would run around 14.
Yep.
But neither of these have heat proposals in them.
Nope, that'd be an option.
Mm-hmm. So this would, we'd have to put it out for a full RFP. It would run higher than this, obviously, and easily could be double. One of the concerns that has been voiced by myself and by members of the Historic Society is if we don't show a commitment to historic preservation, that we probably are not, are likely going to have a negative impact on any future grant applications that we look for. So that's another consideration.
We We've been denied twice now for doing the roof. But we did get accepted for the steps here, and the roof is the big one.
Yeah, they see this as what I was real pleased with in this grant contract that they sent was that they acknowledged this as being phase 1 of phase 2. So when the grant was written, it was written that once we had to break things apart a bit, because our initial ask, what was that, about a year and a half or so ago, was rather large. So we phased it, put it into 2 phases. So they acknowledge this is just phase 1 of phase 2 on this. They have also, they funded the engineer work in preparation of these grants. So I have good reason to believe that there's a sincere interest in moving forward with us. But like every agency, you know, there's no guarantee.
Nope.
And who would be doing the work then on their proposal?
It would go out for bid, and our bid documents were included in the last, when Minnesota Historic Society approved our last grant for 76-1 or 76-2. It included preparation of all those documents that we would need for bid and construction. So we'd have to go out for bid.
Yes?
Yes.
Where does the money sit that was the insurance settlement for the old jail?
That's a Carol question. I think that that's still sitting out there in your general fund, isn't it, Carol?
It is. That's part of the fund balance I was referring to that the county has designated we keep separate. Well, it's part of our fund balance, but there is a listing that I can get out to everyone that shows you where that money is.
I was just curious about whether we could tap a little bit of that and go with the grant, because I just would like to see us stay on the grant trail rather than not, because I'm not sure if we said, no, we don't really want this now, that next time around they'd say, well, I guess we don't really want to bother with you now either. I'm exaggerating the response, but I don't think it would put us up in the A list.
Well, they've been consistent with funding the construction research and construction, having the historic engineer and, excuse me, that's a misstatement, historic architect and engineer do the inspections and produce the documents for construction documents on both sites. So I think there's a good opportunity for future funds coming forth.
So we got to match 71,000?
Pardon me, Commissioner?
We got to match that 70-some thousand?
No, that is the county's portion. I don't think it will be that high, but that is
well, that's what would be
on the high side.
Yeah, that's what
we'd have to approve today.
Well, why would we spend 70,000 when we can do it for 30?
Well, the only other argument is that we would be hoping to keep tapping grant money for some of these other larger cost items, such as the big ticket item on our roof and all, and fascia, etc.
We've been turned down for the roof a couple of times, so I don't know if I hold much faith in that.
Well, they turned us down one time, Commissioner, because they did not, and turned around and approved funding our construction documents for that roof, because they turned us down saying our construction documents were not in line. The second time we were turned down was because the project was, they wanted us to split the project up. We were asking for too much at any one juncture, so we did that, and then they approved the part that they asked us to split off.
Is there a deadline we have to respond to this?
The contract year, the contract starts in January and the work would have to be done. We're looking for, they're looking for a December acceptance. Because it starts their grant year in January 1.
To me, I feel as go ahead, Tess.
I suppose I could give them a call, but but my issue is if well, they'd be wondering, why are you asking for an extension to accept it?
No, that's fine. It's hard for me to justify approving $70,000 when we could probably do this for 25 and keep the money local, have a local contractor do the work. Most likely, if this goes to the Historical Society grant, it'll be an outside contractor doing the work.
Commissioner, that's not necessarily true, but it would go to somebody who knows how to do. You are correct. It would have to go to somebody who has. I mean, it's open to everybody.
Well, I understand that. I understand that. I just said, I didn't say it was. I said it's most likely.
Yeah.
Do we have to make a motion on this, or what are we doing?
Well, the ask is to consider approving the grant agreement. That is the action before us. So we would need a motion. Go ahead, Teresa.
Bob is muted and he wants to talk.
Oh.
I keep forgetting to push that little button. The only thing I'd say is that, you know, I've had numerous calls from Historical Society members with regard to this, and the concern being that we were turned down before because our ask was too big. So they've granted us this shared monies, our 71 plus their 71. When it's bid, it could come out less than that. But in future, I mean, we have the roof to do. We have other things that need to be done on the building that they would share in. If we turn this down, then we're going to be maybe holding the ball ourselves as far as some of these bigger things that need to be done as well. That $300,000 or $400,000 on the roof that we could get half of from the Historical Society. I understand the, you know, if the quote from Meyer as far as $10,000 without taking into consideration the existing foundation and whether or not that would have to be replaced, doesn't have railings, has add-ons and whatnot. So yeah, we're talking a $50,000 difference, but it goes to what Jack had said earlier. We could take money out of that jail insurance monies to offset this cost in order to stay on track as far as the Historical Society is concerned, and be in line for some additional funding from them for bigger projects that are necessary in the future. So I have a concern about giving up some money that we're going to be looking at getting in the future as well. I mean, this action and the resulting action that could take place after that.
Well, keep in mind when we do this grant construction, that's usually a lot higher cost. I look at it this way, that why don't we use that money from the old jail and spend it on fixing those steps ourselves. We could fix that roof ourselves with that money and still have money left over. Going through the grant process usually is cost double. And there is no guarantees that if we were to turn this down that, oh, we're not going to get that grant. I mean, we could still get that other grant, and we'd have to make a decision on that one also.
It's all true.
One of the questions that they do look at is the the county's commitment towards preservation. And so, for what it's worth, that is one of the factors, and it has to be, that is addressed in each grant application. So we looked to see what the county has done in the past, what they've planned to do in the future. Do you have a preservation plan? Do you have a commitment towards preserving the buildings? And fair enough, if the board elects not to do that, I just want to make you aware that that's part of the grant application process.
I think we're committed to preserve the courthouse building. We've used it every day. And I'm all for maintaining the building and fixing that roof, fixing those steps. I would just rather do it in a more responsible way for our taxpayers. If we spend $140,000 on them steps, I don't know how I can justify that with the taxpayers.
Yeah.
I'll make it simple. The action item is to approve the $71,240 or whatever exactly it is that we've got in the budget, and to approve the grant. So after this discussion, I'll make a motion to approve that, and then we'll see what happens.
Motion's been made by Bob to approve the historical grant agreement for $71,200 and whatever dollars. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Teresa seconds it. Any further discussion? I guess I've said my piece. Everybody knows where I stand on it.
I agree. I'm with you on that. I don't believe that we should spend $140,000 on steps, but it's up to you guys.
I need clarification from Jessica. So we get a $70,000 grant. We get a quote and it comes in at $52,000. That's then what we match, and what happens to the
grant is broken up in three components: stone step replacement, contingency of 10%, which is like a considerable amount on the contingency. We're looking at it going down, and construction administration, which is the historic architect and the engineering side of it. So at any portion of that grant goes down, our portion goes down as well as their portion goes down, because they only supply the money if it's actual cost incurred for that line item. So their portion goes down, our portion goes down, respectively.
But we can't find out how much that is unless we go ahead and approve this.
We think that, well, that
no, if we approve this, we're going to do it. My question is, what if the bids come in over the agreement?
I did talk with the engineer yesterday about this to get his sense of this, and he thinks we'll have some very, that's what the contingency is built in. So we built that into it, but he believes right now we'll have some very competitive bids, and we have built in the contingencies included in that 71.
So let's say,
go ahead, Greg.
Let's say the project comes in all said and done at $65,000.
Mm-hmm.
Does grant pay half and we pay half, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's how it works. That's how it works. If it comes in at $150,000,
we pay 75.
No.
Correct?
Is that what when you said contingency tests? What do you mean?
We have a contingency. They matched our contingency. I put in 12 grand basically in contingency, and they matched it 50-50.
So it could be more than the 71,000.
Well, and we understand that the estimation was just based upon, I believe it was 3% over our last cost. So we put some pretty stiff escalators in there when we made the ask. just to make sure that we were on the high side. So we being the engineer and myself, feel very strongly that we did this on the high side to cover, because you don't want to you'd rather say, we don't need all of this, we got it for cheap, less, but we never want to underestimate what a potential cost would be. So
the answer to my question is that there is a contingency to go over the 71,000.
no, that's built into it.
That's built into it. So that's
The contingency and the escalation potential, what would you call it? With the potential increase in construction cost is all built into that.
okay. The 59.6 plus the 59.60 and this 59.50.
Yep. It's all built in on the, we're looking at it hopefully coming in much less, but time will tell on that.
Now the question to them, if it came in more than that, the state's amount caps at 71,500.
And then we would have to pick up the difference.
If we chose to continue.
Well,
if you had
wait a minute now. We're going to vote on to do this, so
yep.
We're done voting after this, right?
No.
Yes.
We vote to approve, but then we put out the bid.
You vote to approve the contract, but yes, Commissioner Bob is correct. We still have to accept bids, and we don't have to accept the bids necessarily if they're unreasonable. So there is, I don't mean to be wishy-washy, but it's not as set in stone as, because we still have the bid letting process. Just like any bid, we have no commitment to, say, crazy bids coming in.
Well, motion's been made by Bob, seconded by Teresa. Any further discussion?
Oh, boy.
It's a lot of money.
On the question.
Ready?
All right. Proceed with the roll call.
District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
No.
District 3.
My vote is going to be no on this basis. We've made a lot of adjustments and a lot of additions to the courthouse. There's additions that we've made that are not historical. So if we are going to fix the steps, take care of the safety issue, and can do it for 30,000 instead of 70,000, all the different additions that we've done to the courthouse, I see no reason why we can't do it locally at a lesser cost. So I vote no.
District 4.
I'll vote yes, but only because I have been working with the Historical Society, and I think we can go out for bids and make a decision of accepting a bid or not accepting a bid.
And District 5.
No.
Okay, motion fails 3-2.
Thank you for your time and consideration, commissioners.
Thank you, Tess.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, action number 14. Consider elimination of the office of county administrator. I bring this forward as a continuation of our discussion last Tuesday at workshop. And first off, I want to make it clear that I know this affects you personally, Jeff, but I want you to understand this is not personal. And I've gotten to know you over the last 2 years, and that makes this hard. And where I'm coming from is there's a lot of people hurting in the county. We have businesses that are hanging on by a thread because of the recent shutdowns and the situation they're in. People have lost their jobs, are unemployed, Some people are laid off, so they're hurting. We have some farmers in our county who are hurting. And given our recent Truth and Taxation meeting last week, I got to see some of that firsthand. I was there personally and could see the anguish in their faces. I could understand their frustration. I understand their frustration when I get calls about their taxes, and it's tough. It's hard. And as a board, we have little or no control over valuations of property. But there is one thing that we do have control over, and that is the budget. And I think it's our responsibility as a board to look seriously at our budget and see where we can find some savings. And the fact that the administrator position is a recent add-on, it's a little over 2 years ago. Unfortunately, that's one of the newest is always the first to be looked at. And I think we have to show and have to try to find some savings. We have some hard decisions to make coming down the road here. The Winona County is moving forward on building a new jail. We're going to lose that contract. We're going to lose some revenue on that. There's a possibility of the CPA aid going down due to budget crunching and problems with the state budget. And so, just like in the private sector, I think we in the county need to find some savings. And I myself would like to go back, and I don't mean go back to the way it was before we had an administrator. I don't want to go back to those days, because I know the breakdown there was going on with communication and finger pointing and the lack of trust that developed over that. What I'd like to see is a more direct line of communication with our department heads and get it unfiltered through that. And I think we could do that at our workshop meetings once a month, or we could, look at it twice a month, whichever, but that's something we can decide on. But with the technology of Zoom, that's one of the things that we can see as a useful tool to do that. And that's my vision, is what I'd like to see is the county board being in direct communication with and I feel that by eliminating the administrator position, we won't be, I think the county will still go on and will be providing the services that we need and conducting the business of the county. And so with that, I would like to, and I know there's going to be plenty of discussion on this, and that's good. But first, before we get into any in-depth discussion, I would ask if there's a motion to consider the elimination of the office of county administrator, and then a second to that, and proceed with discussion thereafter.
I would make that motion.
Go ahead, Jack.
I made the motion.
Jack made the motion. Is there a second to Jack's motion?
I'll second it.
Greg seconds it. Now we'll proceed to discussion.
Yeah, I know nobody in the county knows my position on this, but we did set a budget for next year already at a 0% levy. And I can see, thinking about it in another year when we're redoing a budget again, but at this time, I think we should look at a performance review in another month, and we should talk about improvements possibly of what we want a little bit more from our administrator and not eliminate an administrator. From my year as a chair the year before, I found Jeff invaluable for working on policies, researching anything I asked him to research. I think the daily operations of the county are very important to have an administrator for. And I think Jack and I were on the board, and it was unanimously researched and to go along with hiring an administrator. And we got guidance from AMC, we got guidance from DDA. We had, I thought we had enough information to move forward in a positive way. And I know nobody knows I think that way.
No, Teresa, I do know you think that way, and I understand where you're coming from, and I understand what you went through those years. So,
and I would, agree with Teresa. I was there at the same time. Things have changed dramatically with COVID. In the future, in my opinion, is cloudy. We have one large train coming down the tracks, and that's the jail. On last 10 o'clock news last night, they had the Winona sheriff, and he was saying, we're moving forward. This is going to get done. Well, I talked to Carol yesterday, and I didn't get the information, not because she didn't give it to me, but I don't have the numbers in front of me. But for instance, when we lose the Winona prisoners, we could be down to 7, 10. We're like doing a contract right now for food service, and we'll pay a minimum for that. And who knows? I mean, we're built for 40, expandable to 80, and we're going to have 7. We just can't justify that kind of spending without making some adjustment somewhere. And so I just think that we can function. We did function before we had the position, and I think we've probably learned some things since then that we can create a situation where we can function just as well as we did previously. So,
well, I don't take this decision lightly. I reached out to people within the county and outside the county and listened to everyone with an open mind on this. And at the end of the day, I felt I needed to make a decision, and it comes down to the fact that we need to show some savings. We have to show the taxpayers that we're committed to try to keep our budget in check. And this is one way of doing it, and I feel that if we do this and do this right as a board and talk it over, I feel we should have a meeting to talk it over and discuss how we envision this to go forward. I do not want to see the board get into a micromanaging role. I know that's been brought up. That is not what our intent is, our responsibility as a board to do. I think our responsibility is to listen, to give our vision and direction to the department heads, what we want to see, so they know what they have to do. And we need to listen to them with what their needs are and what they want to do. And the direct connection to me would be extremely helpful. So that's where I'm coming from. Bob, you had something?
I got a few things. Now, you just mentioned that we got to have meetings and get things squared away of what we want. So we're going to put the cart in front of the horse. We're first going to eliminate the administrative position. Then we're going to have meetings to decide what we're going to do. Should have been the other way around. We should know what we're going to do before we eliminate the position.
Well,
so I'm talking carts in front of the horse as far as that's concerned. Now, with my regard, Jeff has been very beneficial as far as I'm concerned. I wasn't on the county board, didn't have anything to do with it when the position was put into place. But it was research studied and decided it was a good thing to do. I think Jeff's had his hands tied as far as some of this is concerned. One thing we had that came down the pipe was the pandemic with this COVID business and stuff that's taken a considerable amount of time. So it has restricted what he could do as far as the meetings and stuff. I called most all of the departments and got input from them. Some blatantly don't want to have an administrator, don't think they need an administrator, and going to do their own thing. I think having a new position and different departments feel nobody can tell me what to do because I've always done it this way. So there's some hard apples as far as that's concerned. Other departments think it's a great thing, think it really beneficial help as far as the meetings, as far as his assistance to their departments and different things that have gone in the county. So there's kind of two sides as far as the department heads are concerned. When I read all the different things the job description had on it, as far as all the different things that the job description required, a lot of them haven't been moved forward. A lot of the things that were expected haven't come forward because the department heads or the county board has not given the ability to do those things that were in the job description to Jeff. He's not been able to do some of these things. If we get rid of the position, I mean, look at the conversation we had about Mary in the auditor's office and how far behind she is, and she needs more help. We're going to end up having to hire somebody to take on some of this responsibility. Who's going to take care of setting up Zooms? Who's going to do the agendas? That all came out of the auditor's office in the first place. That's going to have to go back there. We're going to have to hire somebody to help take up the slack as far as that's concerned. So suddenly the savings are not as big as we're talking about. Who's going to line up as far as we want to have meetings with our attorneys that are handling lawsuits against us? Who's going to put that together? Who's going to get all the information that's requested by the board for all these different things going on with the state and whatnot? So there's more to this than just we're going to save money, because we're not going to save that much money from my perspective. And he's been very beneficial as far as I'm concerned with the things I've asked and the things that I've done. Now, in regard to this, whenever I talk to a department head, whenever I deal with somebody, I also let Jeff know what I'm doing so he's in the loop. I don't think he's kept in the loop by people very well as far as things that he can help with. So from my perspective, I think it's a beneficial. Our budget is already established having him in there with the zero increase. And I think to get rid of the position and not have a plan in place and then decide after the fact what we're going to do is a mistake. So I'm not in favor of eliminating the position, even though some people in the courthouse would like to see him go.
Well, Bob, it would be awful presumptuous to have all them answers for you and have all that done before we even act on it or vote on it. That wouldn't be fair either. That wouldn't be right to do it that way. So I understand what you're saying. There's going to have to be some decisions made. And all those things you listed off, who's going to do this, who's going to do that? Well, you know what? Who did it before we had an administrator? It got done before. Mm-hmm. So it's not going to be everything crashing down and it's all going to fall apart. Is there some work for us to do? You bet. And we as commissioners need to step up and do that and figure that out. But I felt it would be very presumptuous to be going and doing this stuff before it even got discussed or acted on. So
you and I differ as far as the opinion on that.
That's fine. I understand. I take what you say, Bob. I really do. I get it. I understand what you're saying. And like I said, this is not easy. Anyone else?
I would like to ask, since we're talking about Jeff, does he have anything to say? My perspective, not. You as the chairman have to decide if he's going to be allowed to speak.
Jeff, would you like to say something?
Well, I'm not sure where to start. I think that Bob brought up some good points. I think that there has been an open discussion since my arrival about the roles and responsibilities of the position. I think that wasn't clearly set before arrival, and in those discussions has been probably not clearly set either. So I think there's room there. I guess what is your intention? What is the time frame of your proposal that you paid?
Well, that's something we should clarify too. And Jack, maybe you want to clarify the end date. I myself was thinking the end of the month, end of the year.
If you want me to amend my motion to have a date at the request.
Yep, and then plus to make it clear that we would honor all of the stipulation in the contract, whether it's for the benefits of removal, as far as severance or whatever, vacation dates and stuff like that. Yep.
Yeah, to me, that's a foregone conclusion, but I would, my thought would be the first of the year. That would be my motion.
Okay. That's an amended motion.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a second to that amended motion?
I'll second it.
Okay.
I guess, okay. Well, this is an adjustment for the county to adjust this role. You're right. Not everyone has appreciated that adjustment. I was asked by the previous board chair to, when I listed a number of things that I thought were appropriate adjustments to be made with this position in mind, was asked to go slow on all of that, and so did. And so I guess if I look at this, my regret was going slow on some of those suggested changes and allowing everyone to adjust to the position slowly. And if that didn't accomplish the desired goals, then I'm sorry. We can.
And I want to make it clear, Jeff. This is not a performance evaluation. This is strictly budgetary. So, and that's the approach I'm coming at it from. And it's not a reflection on you as a person and your job performance. And so I just want to make that clear.
But we already set our budget for next year with it in there.
I understand that, but
we'll start out next year with the savings.
Yes.
I would just point out again, and I echo again what Eric just said to Jeff but when we established this position, Teresa, one of the major things that we stated was that this position would pay for itself. We are, after 2 years, $250,000 into the position. We have not saved $250,000.
And I remember that argument being made too, as far as that was one of the major arguments of the position was the position would pay for itself, and I have to agree that I haven't seen that savings, but and I should be upfront and fair that I was skeptical of hiring an administrator. I wasn't here when that was done, so that was not. But you know, when I campaigned and ran for commissioner, I didn't think it was necessary. But I was willing to give it a shot and see how it develops. And after 2 years, I feel it hasn't came along the way as I envisioned it to be. So, that's how I feel.
I haven't seen any studies that says what we haven't saved or saved. I mean, there's never been anything actually put forth as far as what the position has benefited the county or not. I haven't seen anything on it.
Well,
Personal opinion as far as speculation of what it has cost us versus what it saved us.
and I didn't know I was being held to the standard of an anecdote, but.
Well, and it wasn't it wasn't my anecdote. It was the one that was used to sell the people in the county of the need for an administrator. And you know, and Jeff, I hate putting you on the defensive here and try to defend this. This is not what I envisioned to do. So I don't want to put you in that position.
If he doesn't defend himself, who will? I mean,
well, I understand that, but that's I mean, I brought this up last Tuesday, so this is not.
Yeah, it's not new, but it is. The situation being that Jeff leaves in 2 weeks. He's got vacation and whatnot. He maybe could leave tomorrow, as far as that goes. So does Donna know she's going to be taking care of the minutes? Does Donna know she's going to be doing the agenda? Does, all these different things that he does, all the department heads know that they're going to be taking over, and ta-da, everything moves on. It won't move on the same as it has. I know that.
Well, I have confidence in our department heads to keep the day-to-day operations going. I feel that the county business will be going on as usual. As far as the minutes and board packets and everything, that does revert back to from what I understand, it reverts back to the Office of County Auditor and Treasurer, and Donna knows that. And we will be working with her to proceed with that. Any more discussion?
I would have appreciated a review of the position prior to making the decision to eliminate the position. I think that would have been the proper procedure, but here we are.
Well, the thing is, the review should have happened back in September, and that should have been a self-review, and that should have been something that Jeff should have initiated on his own, the review process.
I got all the information from DDA, who was influential in helping us get an administrator of the whole review process, one for each commissioner and one for Jeff to hand out.
I guess as if there's no further discussion, we could proceed with roll call. And, you know, I could do that too if you'd rather, Jeff.
Still here. District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
No.
District 4,
No.
District 5.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay.
All I can say, Jeff, is thank you for the service that you provided the county, and I'm sorry for the situation the way it turned out.
Thank you for everything, Jeff.
I too would like to extend my thank you to Jeff for his service to the county for the 2 years, a little over 2 years here.
Well, regardless of the way that vote went, their board needs to have a serious discussion about roles and responsibilities between the board and, I guess at this point, the department heads. I wish you luck with that.
I would suggest that we have a workshop meeting on the 22nd, if that would work for everybody, in the morning at 9 o'clock.
22nd?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
good.
Worked for me.
Okay.
That'll work.
All right. All right. We can move on with the updates, administrator updates, water planning committee membership.
The Water Planning Committee membership and Extension Committee membership advertisement is still out, and applications due by the end of the month. If commissioners have anybody they'd like to reach out to help with those. We've got the Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment applications closed yesterday, so that'll be on the agenda for the board to address those memberships at a next meeting. On a bigger update, I've been forwarding the board information pursuant to the potential that the state would have another business relief grant program. They met last night and voted and approved a small business relief grant program, and I'll forward you a note from Representative Davids on that. But the program is divided up into 3 chunks. The first goes directly to 2 businesses from deed. Second round is also awarded directly from the state, and the third round of that is passes money to the county to award. And the county will have about 300 and a couple pages back.
356.
$387,594, of which a little over $8,000 can be used for the administrative costs of that program. So you'll have until March 31st to allocate that money to local businesses.
I got a call, Jeff.
That's what I have for updates.
Okay. I got a call about the Crook Creek watershed. People that we renewed here, a couple meetings ago?
Yeah.
And they were wondering if that got done.
Yeah, it was on the October 13th agenda. And I had a conversation with Bob Scanlon yesterday.
Okay, so that got taken care of?
Yep.
Okay, because he didn't get a notice of that was done, so.
Yep.
So Jeff, on this latest grant, we'll get, obviously, I would hope, follow up as to how one qualifies and how it's allocated and at what levels. And
You'll have to talk to Allison about that.
You'll have to assign that to Allison if you wish EDA to do that. The money will come to the county. I'll forward this from Representative Davids. It's designated for mostly like what we did with our last round of the CARES Act grant, where it's dedicated to primarily those businesses affected by the Executive Order 2099. But it does leave room for the county to allocate it as they best see fit to businesses.
Okay, thank you.
I had a conversation with Allison yesterday about this situation, and she thought this is something that she could do in her regular scheduled contract days and not an extra day. So, but we'll be in contact with her to verify that. What about the Green Acres assessment value appeal? That was on your items for discussion.
I put it on there Friday morning when that first came in, as Cindy mentioned earlier. If you guys wish to have further discussion with her, you're welcome to.
Cindy, are you on?
Yes, I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yep. I'm trying to find that email that you sent. I want to get an understanding on the so what you're saying that on the Green Acres rural assessment, we have no appeal process with that.
What I'm saying, Eric, is if you look at the top of those charts, it says the rural preserve is a recommendation. I don't see how you could appeal a recommendation.
Yeah, but if it's a recommendation, it doesn't mean you have to.
Exactly.
Okay.
And what it is what I tried to say earlier today, that value is 100% up to whomever you put into this place and as assessor in about February of the year. The people who become assessors go through many, many hours of training, many, many days, weeks of training, licensing. They know what's going on. They have help through the state. This would be one way in which you could maybe quit or not micromanage. You should let your department heads who have the expertise do the job.
So the fact that this was even brought forward as a discussion, we have no say in it then, is what you're saying.
No, I did not say that. I said you have say. The final decision is up to the licensed county assessor.
Correct. Yep.
That's the person that takes it when there's a grief about it. That's the person who has the training. That's the person who has the knowledge on how to do it. You can give all the input you want, but ultimately it's their decision.
I know in our phone conversation I had with you the other day that you mentioned that there was a recommendation for 2022 on the Green Acres assessment values.
For 2022, I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, you brought up that and this is what you thought at the time, that this was considering the assessment for 2022, and that it was going to be raised to $2,600 from the $2,200.
Right, and what I was looking at was, I looked at it again over the weekend as I explained to Jeff, because I was sitting there thinking that doesn't make sense to what I've seen in the past years. And when I did evaluate it and look at it again, it dawned on me that yes, last year I did my own research and I could do what I wanted with what they recommended. This year the recommendation is going up to $2,600, but I also said that in my opinion, did I send that to more than just you, Jeff? That email saying my opinion would be stay at the 2,200, don't go any further?
You may have.
And you have to have that to the Department of Rev by Thursday?
No.
I thought the 17th was the deadline for response.
Appeals. Green Acre appeals. This is the preserve recommendation. No. That's what I'm trying to say. When I re-looked at that, and if you look at your sheets that you got, on the very top of the table, it said agricultural tillable and non-tillable values to be used for green acres and recommended for rural preserve. It's on the top of the last 2 pages, very first sentence. 3 pages, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So basically, all I was showing you was that the values are still going up, and basically don't even, I mean, in my opinion, don't even consider trying to lower it, because all we're going to do is get ourselves into that same mess we just crawled out of.
Well, I guess I was a little confused because in Jeff's emails, it seemed like there was a possibility that we could appeal these values. So, but from what I understanding, there isn't. So,
And that email was sent 2 minutes after getting a copy of it, and then so
Right, and that was what I looked at
I
first.
defer to Cindy.
I'm sorry. When I looked at it first too, it was like, oh gosh, do I hang on to this, or do I give the commissioners all the time they need to do something if they need to do it? That was Friday, because I was gone Thursday. And then when I started getting through my day, because there was only 2 of us in the office that whole day, when we got through the day and I was at home thinking about it, that's when the revelation came that no, we don't have to do anything about this. We wait till February and we talk with the state and we make our decision.
yeah, the assessor will make the decision at that time.
Yes, and I still would say, with everything in me, I would say do not lower, keep it where it is.
And what about the 2022 value?
That's what we're talking about, the 2022 tax value. That is what we're talking about. 21 was set last year.
Okay, so your recommendation is to keep it at 2,600 for 2022. It would be if you were assessor at the time.
No, my recommendation was keep it at 2,200.
Okay.
Keep it where it is.
All right. Okay, I got it. All right.
Are there any other questions on this? I know it was confusing at first, and it was for me too. But once I was able to focus on it, I was able to sort it out again.
Any questions from anybody? If not, we'll move on to commissioner reports. Anybody have any reports they would like to give? We're pushing the time here, but
I could start, Eric.
Yep.
I had, on the same day, I had SHAC and MCIT. As you might imagine, the majority of the discussion, and I got to that meeting late because I had a private issue earlier in the morning, but the majority of the conversation, of course, was COVID and everybody struggling or trying to deal with it, county by county, health department by health department. Lot of praise for the state and health department. I'm not sure. I mean, time will tell whether Minnesota did a good job or not, I guess. But though nothing of other significance that our department would already have a handle on. So MCIT, our friend Marsha Ward got elected to the board. He had filled a position for a while and then got elected now to a full-time position. I talked to her yesterday at another meeting we had, and I said, "You're the only lady on there, Marcia." She said, "I know, but I can deal with those boys," or something of that nature, and I'm sure she will. I guess what came out of MCIT most significantly was that the rates that they're really struggling with are those for jails and law enforcement. That's where they're seeing all kinds of claims, and they're not sure how to get a handle on it. Another area that insurers are all shying away from, and again, they're not sure how that's going to shake out moving forward, are the trash burning facilities. For some reason, even though there hasn't been anything in Minnesota of any significance, I mean, no explosions, nothing burned to the ground or whatever, the insurers just don't want to touch them. Or if they do touch them, it's at a premium that knock your socks off. So that's the main thing there. And then yesterday I had an SCMNECB meeting, and that's the radio communication. Again, the majority of the committees, and there must be 15 committees that go through, the majority of them had no report because they hadn't been meeting because of the COVID.
Should be there in a few minutes now.
And
Do that. Okay, thank you.
So they really nothing of real significance there either. They had a moment of silence for I just lost his name, Teresa, the gentleman.
Yeah, Tim Danielson.
Yeah, who had been a long-time member and a big advocate of EMT. Go back to Shaq for a minute. Harlan is retiring, and he's had years and years, and so there was quite a tribute to him. A couple of the commissioners on the radio board are also bowing out and had many, many years. So again, more of a recognition deal than any hard business. So, and then I would mention that Teresa and I were both at the city council meeting last night. She was there. I was there on Zoom. What brought us there primarily was Stony Point, an iconic area in La Crescent, got mutilated by some self-appointed trail person. I was real disappointed. The city has established a 6-point program for going forward, but no sanction whatsoever for the group that took this upon themselves. They destroyed a beautiful juniper tree, a juniper bush, other things that are irreplaceable, but nothing apparently is going to be done about it. The other thing that came up was where the county is going to be getting another letter from the city of La Crescent. They said that they had approved a couple of tax adjustments, and then when the people got their report, it didn't reflect what the city had done. The other complaint was that they had their tax meeting on November 30th, and people didn't get their notice until either the day of or even a couple of days after. I questioned that, and Cindy, if you're on, they were supposedly mailed out on the 23rd, and their meeting was on the 30th. I said, you could walk those on the 20th, you could walk in one day from Caledonia to La Crescent. How could it not get there if mailed on the 23rd before the 30th? And of course, nobody had an explanation. Nobody had an envelope with a canceled stamp.
They're married out through our contract vendor, and your auditor treasurer is the one to talk to about those dates.
Okay, so expect a letter, and other than that, you have anything to add to that, Teresa?
No, they brought up those 3 points, the notice requirement and the, about the people that didn't have their taxes changed or their valuations changed. And also they have a problem with not getting information in a timely manner, and that'll be in the letter.
The one thing I would add yet is that the mayor said, well, we have properties in La Crescent that are in Winona County. We never have these problems. Well, I didn't ask, and I may, there's got to be a very small number of La Crescent properties in Winona County versus what's in Houston County. So that's not a very good comparison. And, oh, this never used to happen years ago. Well, there were things that happened years ago that should have never happened. And then there were other things that I didn't want to bring up, but we could bring up that this is why what happened years ago shouldn't have happened and has created problems moving forward to these recent years. But so that's all I've got.
Teresa?
Yeah, I went to the same meeting as Jack. I didn't know we could Zoom it, so I went in person. They hold all their meetings in person, but it's social distance and wear masks, so they're doing okay. I did have quite a few meetings this past week. One of the new ones is called WinLAC, and it's actually Winona La Crescent watershed, one plan, required by Bowser, and I'm sure it's the same things that Eric has gone through with the Root River watersheds and everything. So it's the same idea, but when we do committee assignments on January 4th, 5th, or whatever our first meeting is in January, we need to add that to one of our committee assignments. I'm on it right now because I'm in the Crescent and it's my district, but it's one of those committees we have to be assigned to with an alternate. It was actually very interesting. I learned a lot. I didn't know anything about it to begin with, but I had a workforce development meeting on Thursday, which and one of the things we had to do was set the wages for all of our workforce development people, including our administrator, and they went 0 last year, and next year will be 3%. So, and they're also working with Winona County to do their workforce development actions too. They are very, very busy, as you might imagine. A lot of people are looking for work. And the rest of the stuff, I think we've already discussed. On January 5th, we do need to line up Donna needs to line up the judge to swear in our new commissioner too. I don't know if she would know. She probably knows that, but.
Yep.
Okay. And I think we have to have that meeting that first Tuesday.
Yep. Bob?
Oh, the only thing I'll tell you about is Evergreen Cemetery in Caledonia. Houston County owns someplace between 32 and 39 plots that they bought in 1934, 1935, 1976. They bought 134, 5 in 35, 27 in 76. Of the 27, they're all available. Of the 100 from 34, there's 8 or 9 available, maybe less. The records are a little weak. Of the 5 bought in 34, there's a couple available, but they're underneath a tree that's grown up since 1935, so I don't think we can get anybody under there. That's enough. That's enough.
Greg, you got anything?
Not much. I was out of commission.
Glad to see you back in commission.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I had an HRA meeting yesterday morning, and we're going to have another one in January, a reorganizational meeting. They had a banner year for their housing authority allowance of $2.5 million. They also brought up the possibility, they had a pilot project going on in Rushford, city of Rushford, on fixing up homes, home loans, and they were loans, not grants, but they were loans. And the city of Rushford contributed $300,000 towards this, and they got a matching grant to do that. And it's been very successful, and they're considering the possibility of looking into doing this in a county-wide program in Fillmore and Houston County. I don't know which Fillmore might be first, but they do realize the fact that our budgets are already spoken for and are tight. So, and it would take a serious commitment from the county to find some money for this program, but that's all work in progress, but they wanted it to be made aware of that it's in discussion and looking for ways to see if they can launch such a program, and even to find grants for the counties to use to help with that situation. But so that's all I have. So
I would make a motion to adjourn.
Well, is there any closing public comment? If not, Jack's made a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
So
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.